Stay at home, stay safe and stay healthy. So already we have finished Newton's first law of motion. Then the next topic in laws of motion chapter is linear momentum and Newton's second law of motion. So first of all we have to understand what is linear momentum. Linear momentum is the product of mass and linear velocity. Alright. So linear momentum we denote it by P, and linear momentum is equal to mass into linear velocity. So symbolically you can write that P is equal to M into V, where V represent the velocity. Alright. Now, as we know that mass is a scalar quantity but velocity is a vector quantity. So, linear momentum P is a vector quantity. Alright? And what is the SI unit of linear momentum? SI unit of M is kg, SI unit of V is meter per second. So, it is kg meter per second, or you can write it as Newton second also. Newton is the unit of SI unit of force, already studied. Okay. So, what is linear momentum? Very important topic for board exam. What is its SI unit? Very important topic for board exam. So, you must learn and remember it. What is linear momentum and what is its SI unit? Alright. Then, the next topic is Newton's second law of motion. Newton's second law of motion states that the rate of change in linear momentum of a body is directly proportional to the force applied on it, and the change in momentum takes place along the direction of the force. Alright. So, I have written it already on the board. So, you can just note it down in the notebook. So, let us try to find out what is its physical. So, let us try to understand what is the statement of the second law. Alright. Now, consider this situation. Suppose a body of mass m moving with the initial velocity u as shown in the diagram. Alright. Now, what is done? A force F is applied on the body in the same direction. Alright. So, what will happen? The body will have an accelerated motion. Already in the last chapter we studied. Okay. That when a force is applied on a body in the same direction, then what will happen? The velocity of the body will increase. So, what kind of motion the body will have? Accelerated motion. So, here you see, let us consider the velocity of the body, it becomes V. Clear to everybody what I said? The velocity of the body, it becomes V after time t. Clear what I said? A body of mass m moving with the velocity u in this direction. A force F is applied on the body along the direction of motion of the body, and under the action of the force, what is happening after time t? The velocity of the body is becoming v. Clear? Now you see, what is the initial linear momentum? Alright, what is said? What is linear momentum? Mass into velocity, isn't it? So you see, what will be the initial linear momentum? Mass into initial velocity. Is that clear? Then next, what is the final linear momentum? Final linear momentum will be mass into final velocity. Alright? Then, what is the change in momentum? Change in momentum, this is momentum, not mom. So, change in momentum will be what? It is mv minus mu. Is that clear? Then next, what will be rate of change in momentum? Rate of change in momentum will be change in momentum divided by time taken. Clear? I am repeating. What is the initial linear momentum? Mass into initial velocity. Final linear momentum, mass into final velocity. So, what is the change in momentum? Final momentum minus initial momentum. Then, what is the rate of change in momentum? find change in momentum divided by time taken. Now you see here one thing you can do. You can take m common and outside. So it is becoming v minus u. Now v minus u by t, can you identify the term? It is nothing but acceleration A. Alright, we studied it already. Several times we have used, we have solved the numericals also. V minus u by t is nothing but acceleration. So what we have got, rate of change in momentum is coming. Either you can write mv minus mu by t, or you can write mass into acceleration. Now, what is the meaning of the Newton's second law? Newton's second law states that rate of change in momentum is directly proportional to the force applied on it. So what is the force applied on it? F. So what you can write according to Newton's second law? F is proportional to mass into acceleration. Is that clear? So you see, you can write F is equal to some constant into acceleration. Alright? Now, how we are getting the value of the constant? So, if F is proportional to mass into acceleration, you can write force is equal to some constant K into mass into acceleration. Alright? Now, how we can get the value of K? You can get the value of K from the definition of unit force. So, what is unit force? Unit force is that force which creates unit acceleration acting on unit mass. Alright? I repeat. Unit force is that force which creates unit acceleration acting on unit mass. Alright. So let us try to understand what is the meaning. Unit. Unit means it. 1. So unit force means what? Force is equal to 1. When force is equal to 1? When mass is 1 and acceleration is 1. Alright. So if you substitute all these things in this first equation, then you see what is happening. F is 1, then K is coming, then mass is also 1, acceleration is also 1. So what is the value of K is coming? Value of K is equal to 1. So what you are getting, this is the conclusion of the Newton's second law of motion, that according to Newton's second law of motion, F is equal to mass into acceleration. So you see, from the Newton's second law of motion, one can get the measure of the force. I hope you can remember from Newton's first law of motion what we can get. From first law of motion we get the concept of inertia, definition of inertia and definition of force. What is force? Alright, but from Newton's second law of motion, what you will get? You will get the concept how you can measure a force. So how to measure a force? By utilizing this equation, that force is equal to mass into acceleration. But remember, when we apply this force is equal to mass into acceleration, we consider that mass is equal to a constant quantity. Alright, so force is equal to mass into acceleration is the formula we are getting. Now what are the consequences of second law? Now see, force is mass into acceleration. So if you take m to this side, it is becoming force by mass. Alright, so force by mass is equal to acceleration. Now let us consider that acceleration is constant. Then what is happening? The ratio of the two quantity is constant. So when the ratio of any two quantity are constant, then they are directly proportional. So you see, as F by m is constant, what is the conclusion you can make? Force and mass, they are directly proportional. Remember, they are directly proportional when acceleration is constant. So you must write all these three expressions. Alright, first this one, then second this one, then third this one. Clear? So if you plot a force versus mass graph, alright, and as I already said, when you will plot a graph, independent quantity along x-axis, so mass is the independent quantity, so it will be plotted along x-axis. Force is the dependent quantity, it should be plotted along y-axis. So what will be the nature of the graph? When two quantities are directly proportional, then they give a straight line passing through the origin. So what will be the nature of the graph? A straight line passing through the origin. A very important topic for board exam. Is that clear? So remember, so what you have to learn? You have to learn the graph and you have to at least remember this equation. Alright? Then, next, second consequences. Again, force is mass into acceleration. So if I take acceleration this side, what it is becoming? F by A equal to mass. So let us consider mass is constant. Then what is happening? Ratio of force and acceleration, it is becoming constant. So you see, what conclusion you can make? That force and acceleration, they are proportional. What does it mean? From simple practical experience also you are getting this. If you want to create more acceleration, then what you need to do? You need to apply more force. If you want to create less acceleration, what you need to do? You need to apply less force. So what conclusion you can make from the second law? That force and acceleration, they are directly proportional. If directly proportional to A when mass is constant. Okay. So if you plot again force versus acceleration graph, what will be the nature of the graph? It will be a straight line passing through the origin. Alright. Then what is the third consequences? Third consequences is the most important consequence out of all these three, because it is little bit different from the first two. So in this case you see, if you apply constant force, just you consider this example. You are applying a constant force on a small vehicle, suppose it is a Maruti, and you are applying the same amount of force on a Scorpio. Scorpio is heavy car, isn't it? Then what will be your observation? That you can create more acceleration in the Maruti car and you can create less acceleration in Scorpio when you are applying the same force, isn't it? What does it mean? That product of mass and acceleration constant, it means that acceleration and mass, they are inversely proportional. When mass is more, you can create less acceleration by applying the same force. When mass is less, you can create more acceleration by applying the same force. So acceleration and mass, they are inversely proportional. Alright. So in this case, if you plot acceleration versus mass graph, here I just want to mention, I just want to remind you one thing. When you will draw this graph, then acceleration should be plotted along y-axis, mass should be plotted along x-axis. Alright, because mass is the independent quantity, acceleration is the dependent quantity. So acceleration should be along y-axis and mass should be along x-axis. Okay. Now if you plot it, what kind of graph you will get? You will get a curve like this. Alright. Please you draw the way I have drawn the curve. Alright. Nobody should draw the curve like this as you want. Okay, these are all wrong. You should draw the curve the way I have drawn. Clear? This is a rectangular hyperbola. You don't have to remember the name, but remember the curve means the curve should be like this. Is that clear? So these are the three consequences of second law. Very important topic for board exam. So kindly note it down in the study material notebook and learn and prepare it. Next topic is units of force. Alright. Now, by utilizing the second law of motion, from the second law of motion we have got this formula. By utilizing this formula, you can define the different units of force. Alright. Here the force I am denoting it by F. So, CGS unit of force is known as dyne. Alright. So, you see how I utilize it. We utilize this equation that we have got from second law while defining different units. So, according to this relation, you see, when F is 1 dyne, alright, then M will be 1, how much? Gram, because what is the CGS unit of mass? Gram, everybody knows. So, M will be 1 gram. Then what is the CGS unit of acceleration? 1 centimeter per second square. Alright, So you see, one can write according this formula 1 dyne equal to 1 gram into 1 centimeter per second square. Alright, now you see how if you write this formula in sentence, you will get the definition of 1 dyne. Alright, you follow how I am saying. 1 dyne is the force which creates 1 centimeter per second square acceleration acting on 1 gram of mass. Alright, so looking at this relation, how you can write down the definition of 1 dyne? 1 dyne is the force which creates 1 centimeter per second square acceleration acting on 1 gram of mass. Easy, no? So you see, you don't have to mark up the definition of 1 dyne. You remember this formula, apply this formula, write down this relation, and then write down this relation in sentence. You will get the definition of dyne. Alright. Then next is, what is the SI unit of force? Alright. SI unit of force is Newton. Alright. SI unit of force is Newton. When you write down the full form, n should be small. First chapter we studied, and if you use the formula, symbol, it will be n. Is that clear? Big N. So you see, in this case, if I apply the same formula again, then how you will modify the relation? Just you see what will happen. F is equal to 1 Newton. Then mass will be equal to 1 kg and acceleration will be 1 meter per second square. Is that clear? So you see again how you can write down then the definition of 1 Newton. This is the advantage of a teacher. I am just rubbing and writing, you have to rewrite it. 1 Newton is the force which creates 1 meter per second square acceleration acting on 1 kg of mass. Is that clear? So, the definition of 1 Newton, this definition is important for your board exam, you must learn it. Alright, then what is the relation between Newton and dyne? This is very important, this is also important. Relation between Newton and dyne. Alright, you see 1 Newton is equal to 1 kg into 1 meter per second square. Now, kg is equal to 1000 gram and 1 meter means 100 centimeter. Alright, so you see how much you are getting. 10 to the power 5, then gram centimeter per second square, which is nothing but dyne. Alright, so what is the relation between Newton and dyne? 1 Newton is equal to 10 to the power 5 dyne. So these are the different units of forces and their relation. Now Newton's first law can be obtained from the second law. So that's why it is second law is known as the basic law of motion. Alright, so how you can get Newton's first law from the second law? Let us start from the first point. Suppose from the second law we have got force is equal to mass into acceleration. Alright, now let us consider that no force is applied on a body. Clear? No force is acting on the body. What does it mean? Mass into acceleration is equal to 0. So, mass into acceleration equal to 0, it means, you see, mass cannot be 0. So, acceleration which is equal to v minus u by t, it should be equal to 0. Is that clear? Now, from this one, you are getting two cases. You see, when acceleration will be 0, when v equal to u, then acceleration 0. Yes or not? You see, v and u, if they are equal, acceleration is 0. Or, if it happens that v and u both are equal to 0, then also acceleration will be equal to 0. Isn't it? Now you see, v equal to u, what does it mean? The body is in uniform motion. Alright, what does it mean? The body is in uniform motion. Is that clear? And v equal to u equal to 0, what does it mean? The body is at rest. Clear to everyone? So you see, when the body will have uniform motion or when the body will be at rest when no force is applied on the body. Clear? So if I say it in a different language, what I can say that until and unless a force is applied on a body, the body will continue its motion along a same straight line, along with the same speed, and the body will continue to be in its state of rest. And that is nothing but the first law. Is that clear? So you see, one can get the first law from Newton's second law. Next is application of second law in our daily lives. That's why we are just going through the science concept, isn't it? Every day, knowingly, unknowingly, we are using science in our life. Okay. So when you use, what are the applications of second law in our lives? First application. I hope everybody watch on TV the cricket matches. All right. You have observed when a cricketer catch the ball, then the cricketer just lower his hands. All right. While catching a cricket ball, I have not written here, I have just written the first application. Just listen to it and understand it. Okay. While catching a ball, cricketer always lowers his hand down. Alright. Why it is so? Clear? So let us try to find out. Now, according to our concept of second law of motion, you see, you can write it like this, m into v minus u by t. Is that clear? So you see, you can write m into v minus u is equal to f into t. Alright? Everybody has understood? Now, this force into time, it is known as impulse of a force. Alright? Force into time is known as impulse of a force. Clear to everybody? Now, consider the example of the cricket ball, catching a cricket ball. Clear? Then, when the cricket ball, a cricketer is catching, then you understand it, the ball is coming with a constant velocity. Means initial velocity is constant. Then, after catching the ball, the velocity of the ball becomes 0. Clear to everybody? So you see, initial velocity constant, final velocity 0. So, what you can write? Change in momentum. Change in momentum is how much? mv minus mu. This will also be constant, isn't it? Because you see, u constant, m constant, and v is 0. So what conclusion you can draw? That change in momentum is constant. Alright? Now, look at the first relation. Change in momentum can also be written as f into t. So, from this relation, you can write that force into time is constant. Clear? Now, here lies the trick. So, you see, when the cricketer is lowering the hand, what cricketer actually doing? Cricketer is increasing the time of interaction t. Clear? When the cricketer lowering the hand, so here you must write it down. I am not writing, I am just dictating. You must write it down. By lowering the hands, cricketer increases the time of interaction. So you can write the time of interaction increases. Alright. So look at the relation. If f into t is constant, so if time increases, then what should happen to force? Force should decrease. Clear to everyone? So when force decreases, what does it mean? When the cricketer taking the catch, then to stop the ball, cricketer is applying less force on the ball. Is that clear? So after writing this point, next point I am dictating, you write it down. Therefore, cricketer applies less force on the ball to catch it. The cricketer applies less force on the ball to catch it. Is that clear? Then what will happen? When the cricketer will apply less force, then according to the third law of motion, the ball will also apply less force on the cricketer's hand. So what will happen? The cricketers will not be hurt. Is that clear? So this is the cause that why a cricketer lowers his hand while catching the ball. Clear? Then next application is, I hope everybody has observed, and those who are athletes, they apply it while playing the game. Alright, you know that while taking a long jump, alright, or a high jump, always the player is allowed to fall not on a concrete floor. The player is allowed to take the high jump or long jump on sand. Yes or not? Have you ever seen that high jump and long jump the player is taking on a concrete floor? Never. The question is why? The same reason as like this. Alright. So you see, when I will first explain and then the point wise how to write the answer, that I will say. Okay. So you see here, when the player is taking the jump, with some initial velocity, the player is jumping, alright, and then when the player is falling on the ground, the velocity is becoming 0, just like the cricket ball. Means initial velocity constant, final velocity 0. So what is happening? Change in momentum, it is becoming constant. So when change in momentum is constant, then you can say that force into time will be constant, alright. So when the player is jumping on the sand, what will happen? The sand will slide, isn't it? And the player will take more time to come into stop. Yes or not? So what is happening? By taking the jump on the sand, the player actually increasing the time. So when increasing the time, what will happen? The player is decreasing the force applied. So when the player is applying less force on the sand will also apply less force on the player, so player will not get hurt. Is that clear? So that is the cause that why while taking the long jump or high jump, player is allowed to take the jump on sand instead of concrete floor. So how we will handle the answer? This is the speciality of physics that you have to write in the same manner. Alright, F is equal to m into v minus u by t. So m into v minus u is equal to f into t. Then you write down u is constant here. After writing u, what you must write? U is the initial velocity of the player and v is the final velocity of the player. So change in momentum is constant. So force into time is constant. Then here you have to little bit modify it. When the player takes the jump on sand, then time of interaction increases. So force applied by the player on the floor, it decreases. Then next point what you write? Therefore, the floor also, the sand, not the floor, the sand apply less force on the player and the player don't get hurt. Clear to everybody what I said? So these are the application of second law in our day-to-day life. Now, Newton's second law of motion, there is another way to write in terms of the linear momentum. Alright. So, just try to understand it. We know force is equal to change in momentum mv minus mu divided by t. Is that clear? Already you have learned it. So, you see mv, you can write it as the final momentum p2. And mu, you can write it as initial momentum p1, and here t is the time taken. Clear? So, one can write force like this. Force you can write it down delta p by delta t. Here this is not samosa, this is called as delta, D-E-L-T-A. It's a big letter. Delta always represent in physics the change. Alright, delta represent what? Change. So what is the meaning of delta P? Delta not delta into P. We write it like this. It is together, it has one meaning. Separately, it has no meaning. Is that clear? So So delta P, what does it indicate? This is change in momentum. And delta T, what does it indicate? Time taken or change in time. Is that clear? So you see, force you can write it as delta P by delta T. Clear to everyone? Now, delta P by delta T, again you can write how? Delta P is equal to, you see, mv minus mu divided by T. Clear? So you see, if you take m common, then it will become m into delta V by delta T. You see, mass when you have taken common, then you are considering that mass is constant. If mass is constant, mass will remain the same, then only you can take mass outside the bracket. So when you will take mass outside, it will become V minus U. V minus U is what? Change in velocity. How we represent the change? By writing the term delta along with the velocity. So you see, one can write delta P by delta T as m into delta V by delta T. Is that clear? Everybody has got? So this is the way one can represent force. Force, either you can write delta P by delta T or you can write it m into delta V by delta T. But remember, when you can write m into delta V by delta T, when mass is constant. Is that clear? When mass is constant, then we use this formula, that force is equal to mass into delta V by delta T. And when mass is not constant, then we write down force as delta P by delta T. Is that clear? So the next unit of the second law, the laws of motion chapter is over. This is a very important unit. Each and every topics I have discussed in this unit are important. So kindly you prepare the note properly. Alright. If you do not understand, by seeing the video once, you just see the video thrice, 4 times, any time, n number of times, but try to understand each and every topic and make the notes in your study material notebook. Thank you, children.